I know, Charlie, but what am I supposed to do, right? I spent $10,000 on a piece of equipment that continually fails, and now they've gone and discontinued it? Oh, the internet's gonna love this. I know that it's not been that long since I've given you an update on this lovely piece of hardware for my F-150 Lightning, and I also know that many of you get frustrated when multiple F-150 Lightning videos happen in a short period of time. I want to let you know now that there are going to be 2 back-to-back F-150 Lightning videos. That is because the video that is due to go live on Monday and Tuesday next week, Monday for Patreon supporters and Tuesday for everybody else, is a review of something that we were sent to try out for our F-150 Lightning. However, in the process of filming that and getting photos for thumbnails and all of that good stuff, something was noticed about my F-150 Lightning that needs to be talked about in this video. It relates back to the accident that happened in early February when we were rear-ended on our way to Aptera. And as you might be able to tell, I'm kind of angry about it. So let's talk about something that I have no anger towards whatsoever. I'm not convincing you, am I? This is my Ford Charge Station Pro. It is the 6th, I think, Ford Charge Station Pro. Honestly, I've kind of lost track. And if I can just be furry for a second, my furry alter ego, Queenie Octavia Christina Deerhart, she has this gag, right? And she goes round and she tells people how old she is. She's immortal. So at a convention or when I'm going to a Ren fair or something and I'm dressed up as this big, giant, fluffy dog, I play with the fact that she lies about her age and can't remember how old she is. So one day she'll say, I'm 172, and then later the same day, I'm 177. And then it just keeps going. That's how I feel about these Charge Station Pros, because I've had so many, I've lost track, legitimately, of how many I've had. And if you watch the last video that we did on the channel talking about this, you will know that Ford sent an engineer all the way from Detroit to my humble abode to have a look at it to try and figure out why it wasn't working. And yes, they agreed the Wi-Fi chip on it was broken, and yes, they agreed they would send out someone to install the new one. Well, someone came out last week from a partner of Ford's. Interestingly, I don't believe Ford is partnered with Sunrun anymore. At least that is certainly the impression I'm getting. Someone came out who was working alongside Q Merit, who is now doing all of Ford's charging station installations. They came out, they ripped the old unit off the wall. The old unit has been whisked away to Ford for investigations, and this is the new unit. So it works again. And when I say works, I mean this connects to the interwebs through the Wi-Fi access point. We have a new access point that I fitted just to make sure that there was nothing that I was doing that was causing this problem. That is the dedication that I've gone to. But I now have Wi-Fi 7, so hey, that's a good thing. And yes, I know it's Ubiquiti, and I know Ubiquiti are not great people. We have a complete Ubiquiti-based system here, and so to switch now would cost us like 4 or 5 grand, and I just cannot afford that. So while this is kind of an ooh moment for this particular brand, it's the only one that I can use right now to keep everything working the way it was working. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm making excuses. I guess I am. Anyway, they installed a new one of these. They got it running. It connects to the internet, but based on all of the conversations that I've been having with other F-150 Lightning owners, with other Ford Mustang Mach-E owners who have one of these charging stations, everyone who still has one that works doesn't have it set to 80 amps. So a recap. This charging station is based on a Siemens VersiCharge Blue 80 amp charging station. It is capable of delivering 80 amps of level 2 charging to a vehicle. That's about 20 kilowatts. It's just under 20 kilowatts. If you connect the charging station to a 100 amp breaker. Most people don't have a spare 100 amp circuit in their homes. And so most people who have one of these, there's a little dial inside that you can select the appropriate maximum current. It's a safety feature to make sure that you don't blow your breaker. Now, I have a 100 amp circuit dedicated to this, so I can legitimately pull 80 amps and deliver it to my truck. And because my truck is a 2023 F-150 Lightning Lariat extended range, it has 2 onboard chargers and can accept up to 20 kilowatts, which means level 2 charging here at the house is actually really fast. But the engineer who came out from Ford, who also has the same model year of F-150 Lightning that I do, he has exactly the same charging station at his house and he said he's never had any problems. And then I asked him, yeah, but what's your breaker? And he has it on a lower power breaker. So his charging station is limited to a lower current. All of the people on the F-150 Lightning forums that I've spoken to who have one of these that has worked without a problem are all working in derated modes, i.e. their breaker is either limited to 48 amps or they have willingly derated it when they installed it, or they've derated it in software. And so what I've decided to do is, while this is set up for 80 amps internally, I'm using the Ford Charge Station Pro app on my mobile phone, and I've told the charging station in software to limit the maximum charge to about 48 amps, which means instead of it being a 20 kilowatt charger, it's about a 10.5, 11 kilowatt charger. For most of the applications we have here at the house, for most of the use cases that I use the truck, 10, 11 kilowatts is quick enough. And when I need the full 80 amps because I need to charge the truck up quickly for some reason, which occasionally I do need, I can go into the software and tell it to use the full 80 amps. So here's my theory. The 80 amp circuit, when this is pulling a full 80 amps, it gets kind of warm. It gets warm up here. Now, the microprocessor that includes the Wi-Fi chip sits about here on the motherboard. And the current theory is that they're just overheating, they're just getting too hot. Now, a couple of options here would be to put heat fins on the chip to cool it, or to put like a little mini PC fan in there and cool it that way. I know one person has done that with success, but that seems to be the way that people are keeping these systems running. Now, of course, we get direct sunlight on this in summer, and there's no way I can stop that unless I build a little shelter, which I might get my other half to do. Until then, I'm going to limit this to 48 amps and see if it lasts longer. I don't know for sure if it will, but we can keep our fingers crossed that it will. The other thing to point out, and I learned this, again, courtesy of the Ford engineer who came out, is that the vehicle-to-home system, the power transfer, the power has gone out and your truck is going to provide power to the house through the vehicle-to-home integration system. When this charging station was installed, it was on the software that came from the factory new with the unit. So it was basically an early version of the software, the firmware. And Ford pushed an over-the-air update to update it over software. Now, while the Wi-Fi chip works, this can talk to Ford servers and everything is good. When the Wi-Fi chip, as I am now hypothesizing, overheats, it just stops working. Eventually it breaks down and it stops working and the Wi-Fi just doesn't come on, but the rest of the charger works. We can't do any software updates. So again, that's why I'm rate limiting it. But when you get the software update for this charging station to get it to work with a home integration system, the advice I got was that you have to repair it with your truck. So after testing it with the software that came from the factory, and it worked straight away, when Ford pushed an over-the-air update for this, I went into the truck, I did deleted the charging station from the center touchscreen, and then you hold down the two buttons on the steering wheel that you can use to reboot the infotainment system, and you have to do that because otherwise it won't repair. Again, if this sounds like a really silly little dance, you would be right. This is what happens when people who are used to building cars work with people who are used to building hardware and software, and nobody really understands how the other side of the equation is supposed to work. This is engineering by committee, and it's very bad.
In all due respect, sir, you can't win a race by committee.
Anyway, in the truck, you hold down the two buttons on the steering wheel to reboot the infotainment system. The infotainment system comes back online, and then straight away you will be able to pair this with your truck, and you can have power backup in an emergency. That is where we're at right now. In other words, I just spent the last 10 minutes telling you that this works. Whoopee! Now, it's dead. I don't mean this is dead. So you know how the Ford F-150 Lightning has been cancelled because rah-rah V8s and everybody needs to drive 700 miles without having a pee? Well, that was the argument that Ford made when it cancelled the Lightning and announced the Lightning extended range variant, right? It's going to have a range of 700 miles, and that's what people really want in America. I've talked to many Americans. I don't think I've spoken to a single one who wants to drive 700 miles before they recath. Because, you know, ow. So, Ford cancelled the F-150 Lightning. And I was just waiting until this... yeah, cocked up. Thanks, Charlie. Piece of hardware was also cancelled. And last week, several people noted on the website that Ford has stopped advertising the Charge Station Pro and has stopped advertising the home integration system. That $10,000 piece of equipment that Ford promised us in 2022 would revolutionize our power backup has never properly worked. Ford has treated basically all of its customers like the metaphorical stuff that I just wiped off my shoe earlier, and now it's cancelled it. Now, in a statement on the Ford F-150 Lightning forums, and I should note I did reach out to Ford for an official statement but haven't heard back yet from the right person in the right department. And if I hear back before this video goes live, I'll post their statement in the comments. Ford has said, yeah, this is no more. We're going to continue supporting customers who have this. We're going to continue supporting customers who have the home integration system, but it's not a system that you'll be able to buy and install brand new. Ford has said that if you have one of these, but you don't have the home integration system, and you want to buy a home integration system, you'll still be able to buy that and get it installed. And I should point out here that the E4 BDI inverter that forms the house part of the vehicle to home system, that has been rock solid for me. You can buy that separately from Ford. It's a very capable unit that can work with static batteries, that can work with EVs of various types, and can work with solar panels. So it's not just a Ford product. It's only this bit, the weakest link, that has been the major issue. And so Ford has replaced it with a new Genelink transfer switch. Now, if you live in the US, you probably know Genelink. They are known for hookups to allow you to plug other sources of power into your home in an emergency, and their power transfer switch has been around for a really long time. Now there's a specific version designed to work with all Ford F-150s with Pro Power on board. Now, of course, you do need to buy the special Genelink power transfer switch and also the special cable, which has been designed to avoid any nasty issues with the ground causing trip problems, which, as anyone who has used an F-150 Lightning or Pro Power equipped truck to power their home will know all about. Now, what does that mean if you're a Lightning owner? Well, it means you don't have to have the really expensive $10,000 vehicle to home system. Instead, you're going to have to connect your home to the back of your truck using this special Generac hookup. And then you can turn on Pro Power on board on your vehicle. And thanks to a new over-the-air update that pushed about 6 months ago, if you do have Pro Power on board on your vehicle and you have that 30 amp connector, once you've turned it on, you can turn your vehicle off and it will continue to draw power until you get down to your reserve battery limit. When the F-150 Lightning was brand new, you had to leave your vehicle on, but that's been changed thanks to that over-the-air update. And as long as you're pulling more than, I think, about 200 or 300 watts, the truck will stay on and it will stay powering it. That is very different to what I have, which is supposedly an automatic power transfer. But in my case, I can power my home up to 9.8 kilowatts from my truck using the vehicle to home system. But I can also turn my truck on at the same time and run the Pro Power on board and get a supplemental 9.5, 9.6 kilowatts from the bed and feed that to another circuit, should I so wish. I've never tried it, but I've spoken to people who have, and they tell me that it works. But yeah, if you're someone like me who's got this system, your return on investment's looking pretty crap right now. I'm just going to say it.
And it's gone. What?
And I hope that those of you watching who think that I was wasting my money as a wealthy YouTuber and are now laughing your tits off, well, congratulations. I'm glad to have been of entertainment. I would also like to point out that I'm not wealthy or indeed have a lot of cash. And if you want to help support this channel and keep us going, the only way that you can do that is through Patreon or YouTube or Ko-fi or sending us checks. There are links in the down below if you want to support us. You can also go and buy our swag. I do have one of our swag t-shirts underneath. I'm going to try and do this slowly. This is an old t-shirt. It says electric for all on it. But my zip now will make a horrible noise. 1 second. I bet that sounded great on camera. Okay, so let's talk about the other problem that we have. And for that, well, let's go back in history. Welcome to the business end of my F-150 Lightning. Yeah, I know it's got this super massive, mega, hyper awesome, huge frunk at the front. But the back end is, you know, where all the truck stuff gets done. We've got the tow hitch that we use when I'm hauling stuff for the garden, or when we're carrying the camera rig on the back that sits out to about here and does all the cool camera stuff. And behind me is the thing that you're not allowed to see right now because the video for that is dropping on Monday. It's not on camera. Don't even try. I'm not allowed to show it to you before Monday. Sorry. Them's the rules. Anyway, you may remember back in early February, we headed down to San Diego to film with Aptera. So myself, Vi and Erin all jumped into this truck after we loaded the back full with camera gear, and we headed all the way down to San Diego to film. And the first day we got all the way to Sacramento, and then the second day we went from Sacramento all the way down to San Diego, and we were pretty close to our hotel, and somebody who, it turns out, did not have insurance managed to run into the back of us while we were stationary at a red traffic light. Yes, we were stopped. We had been stopped for about a minute, and they ran into the back of us. So either they definitely weren't paying attention, or they thought that the light that had changed green to our right had also changed green for us, but it didn't. And then a little Honda hit the back of this truck. And as we've talked about on the channel before, the F-150 Lightning is a chunking, great big vehicle. It's about 7,000 pounds. You fill it up with camera gear and people. It's even heavier, and a little Honda from the 90s hit square onto the hitch. So much so that our little custom hitch cover was obliterated and I had to print a new one. Now, at the time, the cops that arrived at the scene took a look at the truck, took a look at us, made sure everyone was okay. And they said, yeah, your truck looks drivable, but you may want to get your hitch mount looked at because it looks like there might be some damage to it. So we cancelled our filming session with Aptera because we didn't want to risk damaging the truck further, or indeed having the camera rig fall off while we were filming rolling or chase shots with Aptera, especially as it was a, very expensive prototype. And we took the day off instead. We recovered, we recuperated, we were all really sore. We had bad backs and whiplash after the accident. And then on the Tuesday morning, when we were already scheduled to head back, we headed back, having not done any filming. And the trip home was particularly problematic. It was quite hard for everybody on the team. We were all in a lot of pain. We had quite a lot of over-the-counter pain meds, and we made it back to Portland. A couple of days after that, I took the truck down to the garage that I'd bought this truck from. And when I say that, I bought this from a dealership in Hillsboro in Oregon, and that dealer also has a body shop associated with them, and I've had work done on my previous F-150 Lightning there. And so I was like, okay, they seem to do a decent enough job. Let's go and talk to them and see what they say. They literally got underneath the truck for maybe 2 minutes and came out and said, yep, truck's fine, no damage, you don't need to do a repair. Fast forward to when we were filming the thing that you can't see right now, and Vi noticed that there is some rust and a very visible crack line on the bumper mount point. So F-150s, and that includes F-150 Lightnings, they have this big, huge chassis rail, and then at the end of the chassis rail, there's some big holes that you bolt both the tow bar and also the bumper to. And the one back here on the right behind me, I'm standing here so you can't see the thing that you're going to see on Monday, okay? It has been cracked. There's a little hairline crack, and we'll put some photos up right now to show you, but it is frustratingly obvious. And so I rang up the insurance company, and the insurance company have said, yep, we'll cover that. We're going to have an adjuster look at it, and it's going to have to go to the shop. And I spoke to a local repair shop, a different repair shop, and they said, well, we don't know how long it's going to take to repair the truck. They want to take the truck in and tear it apart so that they can figure it out. I would rather that the adjuster has a look at it and tries to figure out what needs to be replaced, and then they have the truck and tear it apart, because I kind of got the impression that if the repair shop takes it in and takes it apart for an adjuster to look at, I might not get my truck back for a couple of months. And the driver was uninsured. So, I think sometime in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a hitch install. If you remember, Vi spoke about 3 weeks ago in an update video for April Fool's Day about how we've got this hitch mount that we haven't put on their Bolt EV yet because we've just been so busy. I think we might need to do that now. That's it for my frustrated and very sarcastic F-150 Lightning video. I'm also very sarcastically frustrated today, and actually quite angry by some of the lovely comments that have been left on the previous video we made. Some people on the internet really need some touching grass moments. Anyway, thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by either side of me right now. They are the reason we are still here if you want to see us continue. And I'm sure many of you don't after seeing my sarcasm unmasked. You can donate from $1.50 a month on Patreon. You can also support us on YouTube. And of course, you can also send us swag, or buy our swag. I mean, you can send us swag too. That would be pretty cool. But you could also buy swag from our store, and that will also help. We also have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at in the down below. I'm going to go inside and have a cup of tea now. Thanks for watching. Keep evolving.